Ahoy hoy, I'm Planetwalk, and apparently, demons are opening up digital portals using the internet. The very same internet that is used to post the video that we're responding to today, which talks about how demons are opening up digital portals using the internet.
I've talked about this idea of how virtual reality is opening up a gateway into the spiritual realm. And I know it sounds fantastic and a little bit crazy.
Well, that's the understatement of the decade right there. It doesn't just sound a little bit crazy, it sounds a lot crazy.
But if you look at what digitization is doing and how the electromagnetic grid is being formed all around us, it becomes pretty clear that something is really going on.
Yeah, well, something is going on. It's called modernization. It's not witchcraft. Computers aren't gonna try eating your babies. Only atheists do that. Also, I have no idea what he means by electromagnetic grid. The electromagnetic grid is just not a thing. Maybe he's confusing power grid and signals sent via electromagnetic waves and he's confusing the two somehow. I don't know.
Now, I found this interview on the Leak Project channel. It's called People Are Seeing the Machines That Control This Reality, 5G Matrix and ETs Talking Through World Web.
So I chose a video from about 2 years ago because 2 years ago, barely anybody was talking about 5G. Apparently people were talking about 5G and they were even crazier than what they are today. As for the Leak Project, very reputable source that you've got there. When I went to the website, I got ads for Gaia, free energy, and 5G blocking tinfoil hats. I've got my own tinfoil hat, thank you.
And it interviews Lynn Williams, who is a shamanic healer and etheric implant and negative energy remover and, kind of new agey or whatever.
Oh yes, someone who is a negative energy remover doesn't sound dodgy at all. It's not like they're trying to get people to believe in their bullshit so that they can con them out of their money. Oh wait.
I'm going to play a clip for you of her talking about not just how this technology itself has become something to enhance the communications with these entities, but her experience as well, which I will say just from the beginning, think is messing around with fallen spirits and demonic entities.
Have you thought that maybe what she might be doing is telling a lie? Because her story sounds awfully suspicious when you start to think about it.
And I mean, she even talks about the reptilians being in her room and all this stuff.
Do I need to say any more?
Check out this clip.
My friend was in Silver Lake. I was in Marina Del Rey, California, and we had this friend down in Sao Paulo. And we started noticing over the Skype line, these weird mechanical sounds would come in. And I'd say, what's that? And the gal down in Sao Paulo would say, oh, that's the ETs. And I'm like, no way. And she said, oh, yeah, they're talking to us. And I have come to find out, by the way, that they do use technology as a conduit. I've done another talk on that with another interviewer about how the interface of technology allows these beings to come through even more.
If these beings are so smart that they've managed to figure out our technology and hack into Skype calls, why do they need our technology? Why can't they just build it themselves?
And so what would happen is I would go into this light trance. I'd be sitting in my office chair listening on Skype, and I would start to trance out a little bit.
It sounds like she needs to get a bit more sleep. One good way I've found to get a bit more sleep is to stop listening to crazy conspiracy theories late at night. That's always a good way.
And so we Skyped a few times, they came over a few times, each time we kind of trance out, and my friend down in Sao Paulo, Lily, would say, oh yeah, they're back, and she would start actually talking for them.
Okay, out of 7 billion people on Earth, why would they choose you and not someone else? Why wouldn't they communicate with more people? Especially someone like, I don't know, James Randi would be a good person to communicate with.
My girlfriend in Silver Lake was talking to the one in Sao Paulo, and she rings me up on the phone and says, you've got to get on the phone right away. Our friends are here. And I can hear in the background over her Skype line, these friends are here, right? The sounds are coming over the Skype line. Next thing I know, she says that something is crawling up her back, like a massage roller is going up and down her spine. But there's no one in the house with her. Her pets are across the room. And I'm, again, very skeptical, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I believe these two. Maybe this is going too far. So I'm laying on my bed with the earpiece from my phone in the ear, listening to these two over here on Skype. And the next thing I know, she stops and says, oh my gosh, that feeling just stopped. And at that point, the feeling was in my chest. And it felt like 2 little baby hands were squeezing my heart. And I flipped out. In fact, I was speechless, and I just went, took a deep breath. And at that point, the gal in Sao Paulo goes into one of these monotone voices as she's translating for them. And she says, "It's okay, Lynn, just relax. They're working on you now. They're going to open up your chakras."
So I highly doubt that any of that happened, because there are people that claim that they were abducted and taken aboard an alien spaceship. If we just believe any old story about people who have supposedly had experiences with aliens, then we start to run into problems very quickly. So how come for some people the aliens need to anal probe them, but for other people they just use telepathic powers? Could it be that someone is just making this shit up in order to con gullible people into paying for whatever services they offer that are tangentially related to what they're making up? So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because quite a bit of this does sound very dramatized.
So I run into the house and I call my friend in Silver Lake, and I wake her up and I say, "Just tell me you can hear this. Tell me I'm not crazy." And so I bring the phone out onto the balcony, and she's all excited. She's like, "Oh my God." She said, "They're there." She said, "Can you see a ship? Can you see the aliens?" I said, "No, I can't see anything. That's the trippy part." Well, I started to get that wave of sleepiness come back over me again. So I said, "I don't know what's happening, but I got to go back to bed." I ended up sleeping to the morning. When I woke up, those sounds were still in the air. Okay. They went on until 4 o'clock that afternoon. I had neighbors down at the pool that were sunning themselves. And I'm like leaning over the balcony because they were all my friends. I knew all my neighbors. And I'm like, "Hey guys, can you hear all those sounds going on in the air?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? Hey, Lynn, come on down and have a beer with us at the pool." So I go back inside. I call my friend and I said, "I think we're crazy."
So here's a question I have. How come they can be picked up by technology, but your friends can't hear them? So if something like a microphone is able to pick up a sound, then surely any human ear will be able to pick up the same sound because it's operating off of the same principle, compressed air. Now some people might say, but there are some frequencies that humans can't normally hear. What about frequencies dogs can hear? Maybe she can just now hear all these different new frequencies. Now this falls apart for two reasons. The first being is that she described herself hearing mechanical sounds. Now mechanical sounds exist in the real world. You can go to a construction yard and you'll probably hear mechanical sounds. So this implies that it is in the range that normal humans can hear. The second being is that a microphone picked it up, sent it as a signal to someone else, and they could hear it. So when it comes to microphones, they will have what is called a frequency range. For example, this microphone here will probably have a frequency range of around 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Now, most microphones won't go beyond this range, most certainly not a phone microphone. But sending that signal has its own problems. Now, when you get on the phone with someone, you'll notice that it doesn't always sound the greatest. And there is a reason for this. Generally, it's to save on bandwidth. Now, there are a couple of ways that this can be done. For example, you could use compression. And I'm talking more about compression in the sense of file compression rather than, audio editing. Now, what compression is designed to do is it's designed to take a signal and lower the bandwidth that that signal uses by lowering its bitrate. As the bitrate gets lowered, more and more information will get lost and the sound quality will drop. But this is only one of the reasons why talking to people on a cell phone doesn't sound the greatest. Now that clip that just repeated wasn't an editing error. The first time the audio was compressed down to 64 kilobits per second, and the second time it was at 192 kilobits per second. And just then, 32 kilobits per second. Now, there is another way of reducing bandwidth, which I did just utilize as well as part of the compression method. And this is to cut off certain frequencies, because when you're making a phone call, the main thing that is used is your voice. So you really don't need all the extra frequencies that your voice isn't using. So when you add these all up, anything that cannot be heard by regular human ears will not be able to be heard by someone on the other end of a phone call. And that's without getting into noise reduction and noise gating.
My neighbors can't hear a thing, and I'm hearing them clear as day. So we Skyped with my friend in Sao Paulo that night to try to figure it out. And what she said, well, of course they can't hear, Lynn. All of your gifts are open now. You can hear them because you can hear into other realms. That's what they did. They woke you up. It's time for you to get on your mission.
Hearing sound from other realms? How exactly? And how is it that microphones can pick up sound from other realms, but most humans can't.
And I started crying again, just bawling at tears. And I said, why did you do this to me? I don't want this. And she started laughing. She said, I didn't do this to you, Lynn. You did this to you. This is your higher self. It's time for you to wake up. You just got some help.
You know what'd be funny? If she was just dreaming the whole thing and thought that it was real, that actually wouldn't be too far-fetched of an explanation, actually.
Well, from that day forward, my life changed. I could hear into the other realms. I could see. I had reptilians in my house.
The fuck did you just say?
See, I had reptilians in my house.
Why is anybody taking this person seriously at all? I mean, if someone says that they have reptilians in their house, that is a sign that that person should not be taken seriously.
I get ships over my house to this day, little plasma ships. They pop, all the lights go off when I pop out there in my yard. They're waving at me. They're coming over my house. They're beaming lights at me. In fact, James Gillinan up in East Eddy Ranch has video of these little, I call them little plasma ships. And again, I think those are the higher dimensional good guys.
What's the bet that the video that she's speaking of is just lights that could literally be just about anything? Also, don't get your hopes up that you're going to see that video in this video, because it's not in here. I've checked.
Somehow, and I think this is partly the reason we have so much technology on the planet now, is it becomes a conduit, a highway, if you will, for these beings to be able to come into our domain.
So aliens have been waiting around for thousands, maybe millions or even billions of years for humans to arrive to build technology, because for some reason this dimension, I guess, is so important for some reason, and they're just hanging out with you because you're a big part of their plan, I guess. This sounds very suspicious to me.
And then I'm about to play you a few seconds of very similar sounds to what I heard that night. But I also heard it in my bedroom. This is exactly what I heard. So I'll play a few seconds of it, okay?
Great. Is she sure that her microwave's not just beeping? That's what it sounds like to me.
So there you go. People are having these experiences and thinking that they're communicating with the higher self and these higher spirits.
Oh, this guy again. I guess I can take this off now, I think. I don't know. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that he believed what she had to say, but here's a little tip. There are a lot of people on the internet that just straight up lie. You see this all the time with people that claim to be from the future and that have travelled back in time for some important reason and have just enough time to, stop off and make a YouTube video for everyone before popping back to their time. You also have people that claim to speak to the dead and actually claim to be able to talk to your dead relatives because you left a YouTube comment. Or people that claim that the earth is flat to do a daily debate show even though they know it's not.
I would really sincerely suggest or ask Lynn Williams to test the spirits. Test these spirits. What do they say about Jesus? And maybe she's actually said something about that somewhere. I mean, I would assume that if she's done this work, she's commented somewhere about Jesus. So
do you really think that aliens are going to be all that interested in Jesus? I'm not saying I believe her story. I think her story is complete and utter bullshit. But if aliens have developed the technology to travel light years to Earth, I think they would have left religion far behind in the past, and I don't think that they'd be picking up any human religions. And it's quite vain, don't you think, to believe that your particular religion, out of all the religions to have ever existed, is the correct religion, and that every other being in the universe believes in this religion, even though humans can't decide on which religion is the right religion.
So just a short little snippet of stuff happening that I wanted to comment on. We are building the demonic web, and we are allowing these demonic entities to manifest a lot more through these devices. And I think once the integration is attempted, where, you have microchips or whatever, we're really going to be fusing with demons, iron mixing with miry clay.
Except you've got no evidence that this somehow is in any way connected to demons. Which might explain why, even though you say that the World Wide Web causes demons, you're happy to make a video and publish it on the World Wide Web about how the World Wide Web causes demons.
And just to add one extra piece of data to this conversation.
An extra piece of data into this conversation? If it weren't for me, there wouldn't be any data in this conversation. And this video that I'm recording right now was made 2 years after your video. So when you were saying that line, there was no data in your conversation. So I don't know what you mean by extra bit of data.
I found a website called the Next Nature Network, and here's what they say. Virtual worlds, printed food, living cities, and wild robots. We're so surrounded by technology that it's becoming our next nature. It may sound abstract, but it's closer than you think. Cars will drive themselves, and heart valves are 3D printed. How not to lose sight of the human factor? Next Nature Network is the international network for anyone interested to join the debate on our future, in which nature and technology are fusing. Wow, they just straight up tell you.
The reason why they tell you that is because it isn't inherently a bad thing that humans and technology are fusing together. Now, it could be a bad thing, but that's why they want to have discussions on this type of thing. But they're not necessarily thinking about some idiot going, "The World Wide Web is causing demons."
And it's really fascinating that they would have the triple N's, the NNN, Next Nature Network. And whether this is a terrible coincidence or not, I think there is a spiritual imprint here.
It's a fucking logo. Of course it's going to have 3 N's. It's a Next Nature Network. It's alliterative. So, of course, they're going to have 3 N's. That's if it can be argued that there are 3 N's, because it looks more like 2.5 N's.
Because the letter N has some interesting things associated with it.
Just wait until he finds out that my name begins with N. He'll be over himself.
It is the 14th letter on the Roman alphabet.
Clap, clap, very smart.
And it originates as the Phoenician symbol Nun, adopted by the Greeks as Nu. And the origins? Nun is believed to be derived from an Egyptian hieroglyph of a snake.
So he's pretty much saying that the letter N is bad because it originated from a snake hieroglyph, at least the written form. I hate to break it to you, but just about every single book has the letter N in it.
And I'm sure you guys have some different factoids to add to that interesting coincidence of the triple N's, the triple snakes, which is, again, if anything, a spiritual imprint of what's going on here.
Yep, I have a factoid to add to it. It doesn't matter! But anyway, I've finally made it to the end of this video. Big clap, clap, clap for me. As always, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons. What Jesus, Holmes, Hugh Jarsz, M.C.Nutkin, Wolfie, String News 1, Ashpanash, Curtis Reynolds, and Morrie. If you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching. Oh no, the books, the snakes are in the letter ends. Ah!